K-Pro Cow Pow Wow Wow. It's a K-Pro Cow Pow Wow Wow. They want to find the treasure, they want to find it now. They are K-Pro and they are cow. They're going over it and over it and over it again. This treasure hunt created by Forrest Fenn. Sing it! K-Pro Cow Pow Wow. K-Pro Cow Pow Wow Wow. It's the K-Pro Cow Pow Wow.
Okay, everybody, we had to cut that off. Hey, everybody, today is Sunday. It's not our normal day to go live, but you know what? We skipped the show on Thursday, and when we get breaking news, we always said we would go live for the Forrest Fenn Treasure Found. So K-Pro has some breaking news, and here we are. It is Sunday, February 28th. We hope everybody's having a good weekend, and the dog wants some attention, but I'm live right now, little one. So I just want to remind everybody, one, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you thumbs the video up for breaking news, super chats on, and take it away, K-Pro.
And I won't say breaking news per se. It's a theory that once I have been given the theory for quite some time. There was some supporting evidence that was given enough that I can investigate. It's not just from a source. I've learned my lesson. I've investigated a little bit. So we didn't want to take away from the panel tomorrow. Those of you that we have quite a few on the panel, I can tell you Cynthia Meacham has confirmed she dropped a new video today. Everybody's talking about it. It's the beginning of a series. I think it's going to be drop the mic every time she uploads one of those videos. I love her. I adore her, but she's going to have some edgy things to say, I can tell you, which she already has. So I want to do a shout out. If you are not subscribed to Cynthia's videos, go and subscribe, just like us. Subscribe, thumbs up, super chats on, all that good stuff. And here's the other thing. Those of you that may not know, the photo forensics project, for those of you that donated, today is that Zoom. It'll be just after this. I think it's at 4 or 5, whenever it is. That Indy, I emailed you yesterday. You need to check your email, girly, and send me a message back. You are on the panel if you want to be, but you've got to email me back. Okay, so we'll be giving updates. I'll give that update Monday night, maybe after the panel, before, I'm not sure on how that goes. So good luck to O and Goldilocks that are kind of partnering and how this is going to go. The only thing I know is not everybody's going to be happy every step of the way, and who cares? Just do your best, be as transparent as you can. You guys are doing, I think, good things. And if you want to see updates, it's up on Thor. So let's get to this. Oh, and somebody did ask, yes, Mike knocked me out of a poker tournament, not once, but twice. He broke a deal. He has apologized. I put him up for sale. There was no takers. I was mad. I might have said a word or two I shouldn't. Floor just said, it's probably good if you go. I went home and simmered down. But he didn't sleep on the couch last night. It was all in good fun. Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the video today, I'm going to post Cynthia's video, Cynthia's Conversations with Forrest, I believe it's called. It is in the Grand Adventure on Facebook, Cowlazars and K-Pro's Grand Adventure. You can check the link out there. But if you haven't seen it, you really should, because there are some interesting things in it. Maybe we can talk about that tomorrow. Cynthia's going to be on the panel, right? Tomorrow. So
Yes,
you
she
guys can ask
is.
some questions of her then. But today it's on to the
Adam, no, he did not cash. It makes it worse. So, okay, here we go. So I've prepared a presentation because it helps me keep my head kind of about and not forget things and that sort of thing. So, you guys can actually see me. Do you see me in the back of Mike's? Hi. So we have a little echo issue, and so yeah, Mike's set up with a new internet.
echo.
Exactly. So I'm going to go over each slide. I'm going to take a pause. Mike can ask questions, and I'm just going to go through it. I will tell you it's a little lengthy. It's about, I think, 25 or 30 slides. And what I did is put the breaking news at the beginning. And then if you want to see all the evidence, information, supporting thoughts and theories, this is just my opinion. I have not been to the home of Jack. I have not. I believe the theory is correct, and I've put in there why. So that's kind of how we're going to walk through it. So you guys will have the breaking news portion within the first couple minutes. You might think it's a nothing burger. If you do, that's okay. Give us a thumbs up on your way out or a thumbs down on your way out. But at least you'll have the supporting evidence and my thoughts. There's lots of opinions. They're only my opinions, but I did do some background work this time because I didn't want a lying, cheating, mean searcher to spoof us. So without further ado,
if you do have a question for K-Pro or myself in the chat, make sure you put at Cowlazars. I'm going to be monitoring the chat as K-Pro reads through this. So at Cowlazars in the chat, everybody. Thanks.
Okay, Mike, bring up the PowerPoint. Yes, there might be a test, Redneck Express. You never know. Okay. Where is Jack? What's next for the treasure chest? That's what I'm going to be talking about. This is only my opinion. Some information's been given. I cite sources. I cite when there is a source that isn't wanting to put their name out. And then I do, the rest of it is just my opinion. I'm just one searcher, and that's all it is my opinion. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the questions that I am hoping by the end of this presentation gets covered is, where's Jack now? Why did Jack leave the treasure chest in New Mexico? Why did Forrest sign a non-disclosure? Forrest, and I need a little help on that. Why did Jack not meet with Forrest Fenn after he passed, even though we know Forrest was virtually begging? Why?
You mean before he passed?
Before, yeah.
I said
I said
after he
after.
passed. Yeah,
I wrote down before, so only listen to the words that are on here and not my voice. Sorry, guys. Why Jack isn't giving a in-person or live public press interview? Why Forrest never congratulated Jack, and why Jack is talking so much to searchers right now. So these are the things I hope by the end of this presentation you have crystal clear my thoughts on it. That doesn't mean it's factual, but it's an educated guess. That's all we really have. This Nomadic Madman, this source is not, you'll see the source that we had in the GPS solve is not somebody I would definitely be saying that. That is not somebody that no, it's not that source. So this is like source 2.0.
Source number 2. That's right. And this is one of K-Pro's patented PowerPoints, everybody. We should trademark it. Okay.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so breaking news. Direct info is given by searchers. The main piece of information that I needed, the person is not wanting to put their name out, I think, known in the community, but that's all I'll say. I didn't want, even though I do trust this person, know this person, I had to do my own verification. I will give a shout out. A couple searchers helped me last night as I was just trying to, I'm not great on the computer. It is amazing what is on Google, what can be verified, etc. But this is only my opinion. This is only information that I've been given, and I source as much of it as I can. Next slide, sir, unless you have a question.
I will just remind everybody out there, if it's looks a little blurry, make sure you change it to 720p. We are streaming live on YouTube in 720p, but I know that's not the default for a lot of people. So like I have to go to settings, which is right along the bottom, and change it to 720p, and then I can read the PowerPoint pretty clearly. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's white and black because that's what Mike liked. I like all the colorful backgrounds, but that's just me. Okay, breaking news. Informed theories only. I can't say that enough times. Jack relocated to Puerto Rico late last year. Several of the blogs talked about this, that they had run some backgrounds and things. But the big question is why. September is when the information changed officially on record, it seems. I have been given the exact addresses, telephone numbers, etc. I will not be revealing that, nor contacting any of that. Jack has been clear about that, and I agree. But that helped with matching up some information of the part I care about is the treasure chest and how it affects the treasure chest. So I've researched enough of that to know that there is merit to this, but why do we care? It seems that that is a direct strategy for where the treasure chest will be going, and possibly that Forrest wishes may never have been in play. So that is where we're starting. So Jack, I believe, with some information, yeah, this is old news to many of you. So that is all of the breaking news part, but I'm going to now try to piece together the pieces of why the treasure chest hasn't been for sale, and I'll go into other pieces and why, where it is going based on this information and other tidbits that have come in. So next slide, if you are ready, Mike.
So, Jack moving to Puerto Rico, that's news to me. You're saying people have talked about this on the blogs. I was not aware of that. But what we're saying is a source has reached out to us to give proof. In other words, KPRO has seen enough things that she does believe that Jack did, in fact, move to Puerto Rico. Now we're going to give you our opinion on why that is, what the reason is. Is that a way to sum it up, KPRO?
Yeah, and exactly what Albert says. I'm not doxing anybody. I've been doxed myself by several searchers. That is not going to happen. We're going to give enough information of how it relates to the treasure chest. I believe that we do not have a right to all of Jack's private information. I do believe that we have a right to discuss where's the treasure chest going? How does this affect the hunt? How did this affect Forrest? How did this affect kind of all of us? Because we're all here right now. So, but no, I'm not. And could I possibly legally? I don't know if I can or can't. I do believe and agree with you, Albert, that it's probably doxing to do that, and I would not do that. So that is not where I'm going with this. That is as much information as you're going to get, except for a little bit of the tidbits of information that relate to where I think he is and the press release that he gave out. So yeah, next slide.
And to be very clear, everybody, we're not going to give the source that showed us the proof. So don't ask. Don't email me or KPRO and ask, because we're not going to give it. We're also not going to give the address of Jack or anything like that. I don't even know if we have that, to tell you the truth. So don't ask. Again, the show is our opinion. Here we go.
Yeah, and the searchers that help me try to verify the information, all I ask them is to give me like help me track down some sites that could verify the information I had. They don't have the information. I've not passed it on to anybody. Actually, I've not even passed it on to Mike. How do you like that? Okay, so step one is why Puerto Rico. So I believe that Jack needs to establish residency somewhere because I believe his ultimate goal is to pay no state and federal income tax. So if that is your desire, to get out of the additional taxes, and I'm going to go into both sets of taxes that I believe, because there is additional information that's come in. So if you want to get out, so there's two types of taxes that I believe that Jack could have been had necessity to pay. One is when he gets the treasure that I believe Forrest actually has. So he has when he obtains the treasure and then when he tries to sell the treasure. So I'm going to be talking about each of those and why this is important. So he lived in Puerto Rico as of November 2020. Very interesting. I thought it was December, so it's right around that time. Miriam and a few others know this. This is why now I'll put it all together, even though Miriam was not the source, but seems like an informed searcher. So Puerto Rico is a destination popular for private equity, hedge funds, and others to avoid U.S. federal tax. Ultimate tax haven is how it is seen. If you want to go look it up, I have a bunch of articles I can put in the description box. But in general, if you put in Puerto Rico taxes, the first is you get exempt from state tax, but we already have Nevada, Florida, Tennessee. So he could have moved and had residency in one of those states and had the same state advantage. But if you want to get out of the federal advantage, which is capital gains, you would want to. Puerto Rico is a great option. Capital gains is, let me give you an example. Let's say you obtain a treasure chest worth $1 million. That $1 million is what's called your cost basis. When you sell it, if you sell it for more than $1 million, that's considered income, and that's considered capital gains. That capital gains, the U.S. federal government wants its money. If you move to Puerto Rico, you do not have to pay the feds that amount of money which could be anywhere from 10 to 25%. I'm not going to tax person, so I'm not going to get into it. Sizable enough. So let's say you had the cost basis was $1 million and you sold it for $2 million, you're going to be paying federal tax 10 to 25% or more, or less if you have a good accountant, somewhere in that $1 million range. And I don't know what the cost basis was, but it could be relatively lower, etc. I believe that's part of the reason that the treasure chest contents are not out, so that probably cannot be questioned. Okay, Mike, to you.
So we're theorizing that when Jack found the treasure chest and drove on down to Santa Fe and gave it back to Forrest, Forrest says, here, I'm gifting you this treasure chest. So that takes care of the taxes when Forrest found it. Correct. And what we're thinking is he moved to Puerto Rico to try and avoid the taxes if and when he sells it. I think we all know Jack wants to sell it because that's what he said. So when he does sell it, Puerto Rico would either have zero tax on it or at least a better tax margin than it would if he lived in the US, if he was a resident of the US.
So capital gains, it would be zero in Puerto Rico. That's one of the main advantages. So when somebody, there's a lot on this right now, a lot of articles, because people that bought cryptocurrency, if you've heard about that crazy thing, they bought it for a penny at whatever, and now it's up to $1 quadrillion. Now they have a cost basis they have to deal with, the increase. So it's not income, it's not, there's different categories. I call it colors of money. So in general, that specific area, and I'm going to go into what I think Forrest did with when he originally, I actually have a Cynthia Meacham information slide that goes into exactly that. But yes, in short, because I'm trying to give the punchline first so you guys don't have to stay for all this if you think that it's a nothing burger. But I actually, yeah, Goldilocks, great question. Why March? And that is going to become very apparent in the next couple of slides. So next slide when you're ready, Mike.
And I'll just pose some questions now. To be clear, this isn't illegal. If he moves to Puerto Rico and becomes a resident, there's nothing shady about this. It's just people do it all the time for other reasons related to taxes. But when he sells the treasure chest, he would not owe the IRS the tax on that sale. That's what we're saying. If in fact he's a resident of Puerto Rico. Is that right?
Yeah, if the finder, any finder of anything is a resident of another country, and Puerto Rico has this benefit, yes, in my opinion, yes, if the theories, and there's a lot of assumptions I'm making, and I'm going to say that, but it seems to align with what I have some searcher emails that he's talking about. He's getting ready to sell. Why is he selling now? Oh, because if my theory stands, he is becoming a Puerto Rican resident in the next month. Has he been holding off because he's working with, well, I'm going to go into that, but that's next. Okay, but with an active lawsuit, also from what I've been told and what I have read, you're not supposed to leave the country. Puerto Rico is the U.S. Commonwealth. So Puerto Rico, he has the option to move freely in and out of the country. Another good option for Puerto Rico. This was just interesting to me. There was a vote in 2017 for Puerto Rico to become our 51st state. I did not know this. Did you know that Puerto Rico, it's our president, but they have a governor and they have a different set of, they're kind of an anomaly. They're not their own state, they're their own country, but they are under the US. So they have lots of advantages. So if he did this in September and refused the invitation to meet Forrest, he had been making those preparations June to September. So this would seem to me that Jack almost virtually immediately rejected Forrest's wishes, and the time delay was due to the lawsuits that have occurred and the tax considerations of where he's a resident, which I find fascinating. This is, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this. We know that Forrest was virtually begging him, saying, come reside in Santa Fe. I want to talk with you. I want to meet with you. And I have the exact quotes that Jack has given is, it was out of our control. What does that mean? I have some theories based on that.
And we do have a question or a comment from the chat. I just want to do it now before it scrolls up and I lose it. Wattleman 699 says, you don't pay federal U.S. taxes if your only income is from sources within Puerto Rico. If you also have income from sources outside of Puerto Rico, including from U.S. sources, you have to file a U.S. return. But I think that's the point. I think Jack is going to sell the treasure chest in Puerto Rico, everybody. It's not going to be an auction or an auction house inside the United States. It will be outside the United States. That's kind of the point. So
Wait, well,
that's
let's
an
okay.
interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the information I was provided. You are correct. So there's some anomalies here, and I'm not an expert on all this, but it seems to become clear of the strategy. So go to the next slide, please. So to become a resident of Puerto Rico, to get these tax advantages, you need to actually fulfill 3 different requirements. The first is 183 days in the tax year that you are in Puerto Rico. That's basically 6 months and 1 day. Or you're not present in the US for more than 90 days. If you jump to the bottom, we know that he found it on June 6th. So could he have, it's probably not likely, but could he have relocated immediately? Probably not with all that was happening. So I actually think he did the latter for 2021, not for 2020. So the second is he has a close connection, a primary place of residency, and he must purchase a property within a 2-year period. I believe that he will potentially be doing that this year, 2021, and that he doesn't have a closer connection to other territories, meaning the more that you come into this country and the more that you either have income, etc. He was a student from Goldilocks's good work. She has a post up on Thor about did he graduate, didn't he graduate, etc. But he doesn't have additional income from what I'm aware. He was a student. So I believe in September, if he relocated like the records, public records say, the 6 month wasn't likely, but the 90-day tax year for 2021, by the end of March, he will be a resident of Puerto Rico. Dun, 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 dun.
And then Watto Man says you can make an argument that because Jack found the chest in Wyoming, the income is from within the U.S. But I think it's wherever it is when you sell it. I don't think it matters where he found it. The gift tax of him receiving it would have been that part. And if Forrest, in fact, took care of it, or maybe Jack is going to pay whatever taxes there is when he received it in Wyoming. The point is when he sells it is when you pay the tax. And if he sells it outside of the U.S., is it not liable for federal IRS taxes? That's the question. And I'm sure Jack just didn't think of this on his own. I'm sure he consulted a bunch of lawyers, a bunch of financial accountant people, and this is probably the best way he decided to go. And all that takes time. So it's not like he gave it to Forrest and the next week he moved to Puerto Rico. There would have been time to get all this in place to make sure it was correct. But to me, it makes sense. It totally makes sense. The question is, he had to pick up and move him if he has a family. I don't know if he does, but would it be worth it to save, I don't know, 30% on $1 million is 300 grand? Would it be safe? And then the question is, after he sells it, when can he come back to the U.S.? Is it a permanent move, or can he come back once the tax year is over with?
So you asked about 12 questions in there, but let me go back to the chat because I see if Jack didn't care what F wanted, then why did he care about the spot? Is Jack protecting the spot? So I've already done a video on that. I believe, and I've evolved a little bit. I believe that he found it in a spot that was either closed or it was in Yellowstone, and Yellowstone would come after it. And so I don't think he got it during a time. Forrest sure did talk a lot about mudslides and this and that and the other, but that is a different show for a different day. Okay, so right now I believe if you go with the theory of the 3 residency requirements, I believe that he is going to become by the end of March, and it could be earlier, there could be some other exclusions, but I believe it is clear cut by the end of March, or in March, he is going to become a Puerto Rican resident. Why is that important? Let's go on to the next few slides. Ben, I agree with you. I don't believe it's because he cares about the spot. I think it's because he cares about the money. And there's nothing wrong about caring about the money of the treasure chest. He doesn't want the treasure chest, hence the money to disappear. More on Puerto Rico, you can travel during COVID. So a lot of international countries, that would have been an unknown. So that is another reason, Puerto Rico. And the more that Jack travels into the US, the closer connection requirement can be questioned. That last one of, do you have a closer connection to the US? Somebody can question it. We know searchers. Searchers get up in everybody's business and notify employers and notify the IRS and notify gaming laws and gaming people. They do it over coins, let alone if they did it over $1 million treasure chest. So I believe that even goes to the point more of, why wouldn't you go and visit? He minimized the travel between seeing Forrest, etc., and he knew that was time urgent. So March, April would be the timing of the treasure chest sale, which coincides with the emails from searchers. Emails from searchers began surfacing in February about the treasure chest now being going up imminently for sale. So let's look at a couple of those emails that have gone to searchers. And go ahead, Mike.
Dave Bradshaw's got a comment. Moving to Puerto Rico and taking the chest found in the U.S. through customs, wouldn't that raise alarm bells? But as far as we know, the treasure chest is still in a vault in New Mexico, correct?
Yes, that is one of the quotes. I'm going to actually show some quotes in a minute. I think that's even more so the reason that he did not take it with him. And he said he's leaving it in New Mexico until it's sale. So that says it's about the financial windfall only for him. He didn't want to see, or didn't see Forrest. I won't say he didn't want to. Didn't see Forrest, left the treasure chest, moved out of the country, is focusing on the financial aspects of this find.
So when he actually sells it, can it remain in the vault in Puerto Rico and the eventual buyer picks it up, or does the actual treasure chest and contents have to go out of the state in order to sell it out of state?
Wait, you said in Puerto Rico. What are you talking about?
In New Mexico.
Yeah, no.
Vault in New Mexico.
From what I understand, his lawyers in New Mexico, if he wanted to say, go pick it up, go pick it up.
But what I'm saying is when the treasure chest is sold, does the treasure chest physically, if the treasure chest is still physically in the United States, is that an issue? Or does the physical treasure chest have to be in Puerto Rico to sell it outside of the U.S.?
No. You do not have to be, it does not have to be physically with you. People sell stuff all the time from warehouses in China. I mean, did we physically have to be in China to pick up Chaseopoly? Of course not.
That's true. I mean, you're just taxed on what you're a resident of. That's true. And if he's a resident of Puerto Rico, that's how the taxes work. So interesting. Okay. Next slide. Ready?
Okay. So Jack so the emails that I've received, and I'm going to show a couple of them, he says he's almost exhausted the options of where Forrest Fenn wanted the treasure chest, and it will be possibly or probably going up for sale. One searcher did not want the email shared because I did try to go directly to Jack and said, I've received these two different emails. Can you just confirm or deny? And the one said, no, you can ask him. He can verify it for you. Jack's response was a little odd to me. He responded that he was aware of this one email, but he didn't want to comment at this time about it. And I said, well, are you confirming that the email is correct? I just don't want to put out something if it's not, if it's a made up email. He said he could confirm the email, but he didn't want to confirm what was in it because he wasn't ready to make that statement that the treasure chest was going to be up for sale. And I was kind of like, well, I'm not asking if, like, basically, did you say this or is it made up? We went back and forth too much, but we have enough. I will show you enough of these that I think there's some consistency. So why statements to searchers, but then won't verify it? But then why not a public statement? I have more on that in a little bit. So more emails surfaced this week, more information came to me, and that's why I've just put it in a little present, bundled it up with a bow for all of you to see. Mike, over to you.
I will say that this may be breaking news for some people, and that is that Jack has confirmed with some searchers via email that he has exhausted the option of where Forrest Fenn wanted the treasure chest to go. So that is not going to happen. And then I believe he said, so it's going to go up for sale. So he tried. We don't have the specifics of that. It didn't work out. I'm assuming that means that they didn't offer enough money that Jack wanted, but that's just an assumption on my part. So now it should be going up for sale.
And when I asked Jack, I said, is it certain? And he's like, I won't say certain, but probable. And I'm like, probable or possible. And we started getting into semantics. So it just sounds like it's not likely. I won't say absolutely not, because I believe they were given a deadline of up until before I'm a resident where I can't sell it yet, or I won't sell it because of tax issues. I think last minute negotiations could happen, but it doesn't sound likely at this point. I'm ready for the, okay. So here's a couple of emails. The one came from Thor. I have seen the original source document that did have the person's name on it. So I'm not going to share it, but I will give you, this is word for word what it said. I said, I don't want to close the door on Forrest's final idea working out, but we are almost in March at this point. So I have to say it seems unlikely right now, and it'll be probably going up for public sale. Another one, and again, these two on the right are up on Facebook, so it's public. I have some people inquire, and I've told them if they gave me $5 million right now, I would take it, but nobody has taken me up on that. I think most would prefer to compete for it, and that is understandable. Before I move forward, Mike, does anybody want to compete at an auction over just getting given a private sale, not having to work? I just think of the end of an eBay auction. It's always a mad frenzy. Who on earth would want to compete for it? What say you, sir?
I agree with that, except they're not going to give him 5 million in order to avoid the competing. So I think Jack is saying they're going to bid on it. They want to bid on it because they think it will go nowhere near 5 million. But I understand your point. They don't want to have to bid with somebody. They'd rather buy it outright. I just can't believe that somebody who has that kind of money can't agree on a number with Jack, whether it's 1.5 or 2. I can't believe you don't meet in the middle. But maybe Jack is like, I'm only going to sell it to a private transaction for 5. If you don't want to do that, it's going to go up for auction, and let's just see how high it goes. I personally think there's no way it could go for 5 million, but I could be wrong. It would be interesting if it's a public auction that we can watch. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I think there's another one out there, or just below this. It says, that's my plan. I'm sure it'll go for 7 figures. 1 million is different than 5 million. It's kind of like if someone said, I want to buy a Chaseopoly. And I say, well, for $400, you can buy one Chaseopoly. And somebody says, well, I'd rather just wait until it's on eBay because I know it's not going to go for 400, or I could say 4 million. In my opinion, Jack is putting a number that he knows will never go to auction. He'll never get that high. And that's hedging his bets. I don't actually think that's wise because unfortunately, he's the one that's going to bear the cost of the commission, the appraisal, all of those things. But it also could have a frenzy going on there. I don't know.
And speaking of that, I'm going to put a Chaseopoly on eBay. I want to see how high it goes, or I want to see what the market is now that the treasure chest has been found. I'll put it up for, say, I don't know, $9.99 or something, and I wonder if it would be bid up or if it wouldn't. But anyway, I'll let you guys know whenever I end up doing that. I'll give you guys the link.
I think $1 personally,
and just see if it goes up or
yeah,
not.
see where it goes.
I think we should add something to it though, something fun. We'll see.
So Holy Asses, there's a guy from China who collected all kinds of stuff from Forrest. Is he still around? I know of a person, but he's not in China. If you're talking about the person that American Dolls and a lot of his collection and art, we might be talking about the same person. I believe he is still alive and well. I don't know if he has been connected to Jack or not, but I am aware of the person that bought a ton of Forrest stuff the year before he passed. Okay, I'm ready when you are to.
And David Paisano has a good question, and that is, do you get a corroborated solve from Forrest for the 5 million?
No.
Is the solve going to go with the sale? I mean, as far as we know, it's no, but
I asked Jack specifically
okay.
because somebody had said they got an email from him that said the solve was going with it. And he said, absolutely not. He said that there is the biography and it is sealed, but he did have a discussion with Forrest. So I think that's why he feels comfortable in selling it. And it is less from what I'm understanding, it is less the bracelet that he gave back to Forrest for $0. I don't know if that was part of the back and forth. And then the gold frog is also, I don't know if he took it out. Forrest said it wasn't in the chest, but Jack said it wasn't in the chest, but he went and found it and gave it to him. From what I understand, that is not for sale either. So It's not really complete.
Now that's breaking news too. So the bracelet is out because he gave it back to Forrest. And now you're saying, and you believe this is confirmed, that the gold frog will not be in the chest when it goes up for sale. Interesting.
Correct. Okay, Goldilocks. There are still 2 lawsuits connected to the chest. One could refile, the other. How would that affect things? So Goldilocks, that's interesting. There's 2 things I have to say to that. I don't believe the Arizona case can refile. At the time that the judge made that statement, that he could refile, he was still under the statute of limitations. I believe as of today, that has been delayed. But I know, breaking news, we have an update from the Erskine case that he wants an extension of time because he's getting tested for COVID or something. I haven't read through it yet. I've been dealing with other stuff. The other is, so anybody can sell something as long as they have full disclosure and they know what they're getting in store for. So from what I understand, he can sell the treasure chest, but he will say, most likely, and any litigation based on this is not going to be on me. So would somebody sign up for that? You can sell anything with any provision. Will somebody be willing to buy it under the provision, I have to sign up for these crazy lawsuits of searchers and potentially have there would be a long contract, I think, involved, which I think there would be anyway with a 7-figure deal happening. What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, all I can say is GeoNut said I think it's worth 10 million. And somebody else said the only way Jack would offer 5 million is if he had it appraised. The treasure chest and its contents could be appraised, in my opinion. So you know what the value is of the contents, you know what the numismatic value is of the coins, but you can't put a price tag on its Forrest Fenn's 10-year treasure chest. It was sitting there for 10 years in the Rocky Mountains. There's no way to put a price tag on that. So if you get the right people bidding for it, it could go well above whatever it was appraised for. I don't think it would go to 5 million personally, but it would be fun to watch. So we'll have to wait and see. And I think that's what Jack's saying is if somebody just wants it, 5 million is the number. Otherwise, you're going to have to compete for it. You'll see how high it goes.
Well, think of that. I'll just say international person, whether it's China, Middle East, it doesn't matter. Let's say that person has $5 billion. If they want it, that's like a tip. I mean, 1 million versus 5 million, they're good. To most of us, that's like life-changing money. That's like lifelong money. So of course we wouldn't. But if somebody gets their heart set on something, they're going to buy it if they have that kind of resources.
Marty Bird says, do you remember what Smell the Sunshine's appraisal value was? I don't remember the video on that. Do you?
I remember the video. I don't remember. I think his low end, I want to say between $500,000 and $1.5 million. It was a tighter number than that. It was not over 1.5, which is nowhere near 5 million. I mean, that's like 3 times value. I want to say it was right around $1 million, but I wouldn't even say less than that. But again, yeah. Will Jack sell the solve, you think? Tom, I don't believe so because 1, he has said that again and again. And 2, I believe if he sells the solve, it will come out that he got it in the park and or in a location that was not accessible, either due to closed trails, etc., or closed area, and he would lose the treasure chest and not be able to sell it. That's my opinion. Okay, Indy says 1.2. So right around $1 million. Let's just say $1.5 million. That's not 5 million.
I could see it going to 2 million, in my opinion. But all right, let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay, so now, okay, so those are what we're seeing right now. I have asked the person, see that one on the right, on the bottom that says, that is my plan. I'm sure it will go for 7 figures. Are you sure that's doable? I'm certainly couldn't buy it myself. I asked them, what is doable? What were you talking about in that case? Okay, keep going. Okay, so the timeline in general, we knew that on June 5th, Jack finds the treasure chest. He leaves it to get explicit permission. On June 6th, he sleeps in, retrieves it, departs for Santa Fe, stays somewhere in between Santa Fe and a hotel. On the 7th, 8th, he meets with Forrest. There is a lawsuit filed. Jack meets with Forrest with legal documents and the treasure chest. Forrest signs an NDA. I have a question for that later, so let's not bring it up now. And then in mid-June, I don't know which day he left, but somewhere after that, he goes back east. And there's no picture or interview that has been given from Jack since then. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, the NDA that I never heard of Forrest signing an NDA, but we can get into that later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what next? So I believe, so let's just put that all in one line. June 5th, 6th, 7th-ish, found it and headed to Santa Fe. So July, now let's do like the rest of June, July, August, September. Forrest tries to get a meeting with Jack. He is not successful. Jack's investigating options for treasure chest sale and preparing for relocation, and the lawsuits continue. They weren't dismissed right away. They actually go for a while. In September, Forrest dies, and I believe the information I've seen, Jack relocates to Puerto Rico. Then in October, November, December, Jack is in Puerto Rico. He's dealing with the lawsuits, and he is outed as the finder. Now, January, February, March is where we're now. He heavily communicates with searchers. He indicates that Forrest's desire is not working out of where he wanted the treasure chest. I believe it's right around the next month he will be establishing residency in Puerto Rico. That is the deadline for Forrest's desire. Otherwise, it is going either to, in April-ish timeframe, sale occurs either privately for that $5 million, auction where they compete for it, or piece by piece. And you'll see that email as well. He has said if he doesn't get what he wants at auction, he's going to sell it off piece by piece, which is the reason I believe he is communicating with searchers. Because if he wouldn't even communicate with Forrest, I think there has to be a reason. Right now, I believe Jack's motives, and I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it like fact, is based on money. If he didn't give Forrest the time before he died, I don't think he'd be giving us time as searchers and communicating with us unless there's a financial reason to do so. And I believe that is because he's trying to keep he knows that he has the piece by piece option he needs to keep available, and he's keeping us going in case that's what happens. Okay, K-Pro, is it possible Forrest's final wish for the chest is not happening because he wanted it in a museum exhibit and we're in a pandemic, which is stiffing that wish? I don't believe so. I believe there's still negotiations happening. Museums are open, philanthropic giving. I believe a museum would not pay as top dollar. They would need to have a donor. Some people say they have proof that there's individuals that have been approached. Until I see something more, like I saw something more here, that's why I'm bringing it to you. So piece by piece seems like a huge risk. I agree with you. I believe that K-Pro is right. Jack's going for the most money. There's the possibility of Jack was a part of a group that has to split it before it's liquidated. I won't get into that because he says he isn't, but I still have some suspicions. Go ahead, Mike.
That was from the first source that there was a group, but yeah, we'll see if it plays out. All right, next.
Okay, so let's take a look back on, does this make sense with things that we have been given from Jack and Forrest? So go ahead. So Jack's news releases. It's something I wanted to ask Forrest about when we met again, but I never got to. So he never went back to talk with Forrest after that initial time. That always has perplexed me. Well, he was preparing and going to Puerto Rico. That now makes sense. It was better done face to face. So this is the big one for me. For weeks, he had wanted me to fly back to Santa Fe and spend more time with him. He even tried to convince me to move there, but circumstances out of our control made it more practical for me to come later. Out of your control, like you're preparing to move to Puerto Rico. So Forrest is begging him, and he knows his days are numbered. Jack is focused on the monetary aspect of this. So Forrest asked him to relocate. He wouldn't. He was relocating elsewhere. When he says out of our control, out of both of your controls is the residency requirements. He's preparing the sale of the treasure chest. That's his number one priority. This is the beginning of about 8 pieces of evidence that I'll bring forward that supports my opinion, in my opinion.
I guess I buy all of that. But even if he did move to Puerto Rico to change his residency, he couldn't have flew into Santa Fe just to meet with Forrest for a day or two. Would that screw things up?
The more that he meets with Forrest, the more that third category of the residency requirement, do you have a bigger tie to the US than you do to Puerto Rico? I think he was trying to establish his Puerto Rican tie. The more that he came back, and what is he, if we go by what he says, and I have a slide on this, he's not a collector. Well, let's get to that. Why don't you parking lot that question? And when we get to the one that he's like, I don't want the chest, I'm leaving it in Santa Fe, I'm not a collector, I don't like possessions. I mean, that pretty much says, what would he have to talk about with Forrest then? I would want to hear stories, but if your focus is only on selling the treasure chest, yeah. Okay, So he was completely open about anything I wanted to confirm. That is the reason I would be sitting there with Forrest for hours. I could tell that there was some eagerness that he could tell these secrets. So Jack did not find it urgent to get the answers about the chase. So obvious to me, he has no intention of a book or press sale. And I believe the reason for that is because where he found it, he shouldn't have been able to find it. He confirmed that in another quote, or my opinion, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm trying to stay focused on this one. Jack used the term that Forrest was eager to meet with him, but Jack did not. So he had an ultimate goal that did not coincide with meeting back with Forrest. He did not think it was urgent for Forrest to share his secrets, even though Forrest requested it. So there must have been something big like, oh, leaving the country and maybe seeing your family for the last time in a little while and that sort of thing, and selling your house and all that. And or condo, whatever we're in. I haven't looked into it enough. I just do have some additional information on that in a couple of slides.
Copper Dan says, were there any flight restrictions between the U.S. and Puerto Rico that would have prevented Jack from flying back, like COVID restrictions?
So initially, so yes, you needed to have initially when you flew out of the country or into Puerto Rico, you did not have to have a negative COVID test. Before you could come back in, you would, but it's considered a US territory. So it was the same restrictions, which was basically flight availability, was more of an issue from the 4 or 5 press releases that I looked at. But it was kind of one of those like, hey, if you want to get away right now, Puerto Rico is a great option because it's considered the US, which was really interesting to me. So the biggest provision that they had, and I believe that they've gotten rid of it now, is that you had to have a free and clear COVID test when you came back into the country. But that was it. It was not like if you're trying to travel to China or any other, the borders are shut down. Well, they're not a border. They're considered, this is one of the pros of picking Puerto Rico. Fascinating, isn't it?
Billy Shaw Jr. says, here's my conspiracy theory. Jack is linked to a group that founded in August 2019. They've been trying to sell it since, and we're using the GPS solve as a proxy location to protect the real one. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. All I can go off of is what Forrest has said. And Forrest told us the day it was found, or at least the day that Forrest was told it was found. So I don't have any reason, I guess, that not to really not believe Jack or Forrest.
So Dell asked, would you move your whole family to Puerto Rico to save on taxes? He had debt he needed to sell and pay it off. Not cheap to move. Okay, so Dell, I would not. But I am not, from what I understand, and I haven't done any searching, but I haven't seen. I know he has a brother, and obviously he has parents. I don't know if they're alive or not. I don't believe he has a wife. I don't believe he has kids. I was asked to move within a week across country, and I've gone out of the country for months at a time at a moment's notice when I did not have the issues of kids and all of that. All of that meaning Cowlazars. So me, myself right now, no. I personally, even though Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, I personally wouldn't leave the States, maybe Canada. I don't know enough about Puerto Rico. I, as a woman, also would not. He obviously is a man, so that's a little different. I think he's also willing to be a little edgier with his past experiences, and he's not going to be as afraid as a woman might traveling to a foreign country. So I would say, to answer your question, I wouldn't, but I could see how maybe that was his plan in life, and if it sets him up to get, let's say, a couple hundred that more thousand, and let's go with some of the conspiracies, he actually did have a group. Well, you start cutting the pies up, that's what happens. I don't know is the answer. What say you, Michael?
Well, Huli says she'd move at the drop of a hat. I mean, if you could save 300 to 500 grand by doing this, I mean, $500,000 is $500,000. But David Paisano brings up a good point. You could set up an LIC in Puerto Rico and not have to move the family. Couldn't he set up a corporation and then sell it through the corporation type thing?
From what I understand, no, because a company is not what. So there was a little bit on that in this whole cryptocurrency, et cetera. I don't think there was any way for him to say this was a company effort. He
Okay.
wasn't a professional treasure hunter. That would have been too far of a risk for audit, et cetera. And think about, people had already up on some of the forums said, I have notified the US government of XYZ about you, Jack. Have you paid your taxes and all that? He knows he's going to be under scrutiny. He has to make it as clear cut as possible, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. Hashtag KPros PowerPoint.
Okay, so next slide. So more from Jack. Alas, I'm a millennial. I have student loans. It wouldn't be prudent to continue to own Forrest Fenn's treasure. I feel burdened by possessions. So the treasure and I will part soon. I will offer it for sale. So we know Jack's an academic type. He was at least in medical school. Some thinks he graduated, some he didn't. I don't know. But I will say he's an academic type. You know what Forrest thinks of that. He thinks we all need crutches. And I'm okay with that. But Jack was an academic type. He would not own the treasure chest for long. He would be selling it. He didn't like collections, so he was not a collector. This is not, I think, the person that, what did Forrest say? Does he have 12 kids? He's hoping, some poor redneck with 12 kids and his pickup truck goes and finds it. Not exactly what Forrest had. I don't think Forrest was against a single man finding it, but this was not Forrest and I talked about it. He's like, I hope it changes someone's life and their kids and their family and all of that. Okay. Even more words from Jack. Forrest had a final wish of where he thought the treasure should end up. The first step for me is to be willing to try to make that happen. So Forrest communicated quickly his wishes, obviously, when they met. But if Jack began preparations to move out of the country almost immediately, which I think was, if he was gone by September, October, he was preparing before that. I don't know if he owned a home or not, but it still takes a month or two. That means he almost immediately has not seen that as the most plausible option because he's making these contingency plans, which means, was Forrest's final wishes ever really on the table? My opinion is probably not. Okay, so even more by Jack. I moved to a more secure building with guards and multiple levels of security. I've taken the appropriate measures to protect myself. This is when he was outed. I will tell you the records show of the place that he supposedly lives right now. There is 24/7 security. It is gated, and he does have the penthouse level, which has additional higher security measures, is all they indicated, and it is right near airport in case he does have to go and travel, back to New Mexico.
So I will comment on this. Odorous Gnome says all this nosing about Jack's personal life just underscores good reasons why he wanted to remain anonymous. Folks are doing exactly what he and F were concerned about. Well, I'll say this. The reason we have to do these kind of shows is because Jack has not given us any other information. If Jack would have gave out the solution and said, these are the 9 clues, this is what they meant, we wouldn't be talking about Jack anymore. We'd be talking about the solution and the location. It's only because Jack's like, I'm not going to tell you where it was found. I'm not going to tell you what the 9 clues are. Oh, but I'm going to email a bunch of people and kind of answer questions. That's why we're doing these shows on Jack. Jack decided to do that, in my opinion. Okay.
Well, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I don't believe I'm getting into his personal life. I've been given addresses and telephone numbers and personal information on his family and this and that. I think that's totally overstepping. That isn't something that I am going to share. What country, the reason that this has been delayed as much as it is, because the finder, I don't care if it's Jack, Tom, Fred, or Susie, that they have relocated for a financial reason due to taxes, and that is the reason for the delay, I think is pertinent for the search community. That's my opinion, though. I know some people think this is incredibly intrusive. Some people are mad that I won't put out, I've already gotten some emails that why wouldn't you put out the address, etc., this and that, because even if the person that gave it to me wanted me to and they don't, I wouldn't, because I don't believe it's right. Even if I could legally, I wouldn't want to. But I do think not Jack the person, but the finder, and maybe that's how we could say it. The finder moved to Puerto Rico because of this, because of that, etc. That's just my opinion. So,
and I'll also point out that's the reason it was shared with KPro is because the source knows she's not going to share it with everybody. She wouldn't do that, and neither would I. So that's one point, I guess.
Okay, and one other thing that Odorous Gnome has said, He only did the emails after he was forced to come out. That is true. And I actually have this on an email, or have this on a slide later. He is not forced to, though. I mean, he has responded to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of times. No one is forcing him to do that. This is self-perpetuated. The more that he tells people, hey, it's coming up for sale. Hey, Forest wishes are not gonna, it's not gonna happen. Hey, this, hey, that. Is he wanting? I believe he's kind of wanting us to talk about it. Why is he emailing hundreds of people responses? If he didn't want us, he could have come out and said exactly on that statement and said, respect me, respect my life. I am not, if you have something specific you want to talk about, you can. He is emailing everyone about a lot of things and people want to talk about it. So this private underground, I like the whole community to know. And that, but I don't get to choose that, but I do get to choose what I share when people do. I've included emails that he has handed to someone. So it's okay if it's person to person, but it's not okay to talk as a community about it. And Facebook doesn't agree with that. A lot of the forums don't agree with that. We just get to share because the community, I don't think he owes us anything, but if he gives it to me, I'm going to put it out. If he gives it to someone I know and they give it to me, we're going to talk about it. I don't want to keep it secret because I like you and you and you and you and kind of you and a little bit you.
Not so much you. So the other thing is, this is an interesting character study, right? This is an interesting event of how a treasure hunt ends. And if there ever is another $1 million treasure hunt and you're lucky enough to find it, this is information on maybe one way you can dodge, you legally dodge U.S. tax. It's interesting to know that, oh, I can actually become a resident in Puerto Rico before I sell something and not have to pay tax on it. We'll see how this plays out. We'll see if Jack actually comments or not. In other words, if all this is legal, I don't see what the issue is with him to say, yes, I am in Puerto Rico and I am doing things a certain way. As long as it's all legal, why wouldn't he tell people? But again, that's up to Jack. So.
Well, and I think the more people know, I think it could be timing. I think it could be a lot of things. And yeah, thank you. Odorous Gnome is saying, like, fair enough, because he's not shy right now. I find it fascinating. I mean, I find it fascinating that he was so shy in the beginning and he's not so shy. Could it be that he's totally isolated in another country and doesn't have people to talk to? So searchers are there for him? What do you think?
Oh, you mean he's so bored in Puerto Rico? He's like, he's just sitting like checking his emails every day. You know, there's so many theories, maybe. But Jack, you're welcome to come on the show and explain it if you want, or do a
Yes.
Medium article. You know. All right, let's get back to the PowerPoint. We already went through this one, right? You're muted. You're muted.
I said this whole thing. This confirms where he is located. So he moved to a more secure building. I just thought that meant in his same city. Nope, I guess not. Okay, next slide, Michael, before you get on the phone, before you get distracted. Okay, even more. I think this is the last one. It is in a secure location in New Mexico. It will remain there until I sell it. He may not have wanted to take possession because he knew he was going to probably be leaving the country, Puerto Rico. Knew he would be relocating out of the country, may not have wanted to take possession until he established himself as a resident. He's saying it's going to be there until he sells it. So he didn't seem to have an emotional connection to the treasure. I would be taking every single item out. I would be like rubbing one of the little coins and saying, oh,
because it's in a vault in New Mexico.
Right. So he doesn't seem to have any emotional connection to it, which goes back to the theory. It's based on the financial aspect only. The jar has not been opened, the bracelet was returned, and the frog is no longer in the chest. I find those fascinating, but that's for another show, another day.
Ben Apple has a good point. What time does Jack respond, and what time is it in Puerto Rico when he sends those? What's the time difference between I don't know what the time zone is in Puerto Rico, but that's an interesting thought, isn't it?
It has to be East Coast time, and I can tell you. Oh, I'm going to look into that. I can tell you when he responds to me, and it is consistent. I've just thought that is very interesting. Here's something that I don't know how to do. If you've gotten an email from him, can't the header information tell you what IP area he is in, unless he has like a VPN or something?
No idea. But again, he could be masked. Yeah, VPN. It could be anonymous, but I have no idea.
I don't know. Okay, let's keep going because we're staying on track. I don't want to get onto, and I don't want to be too intrusive. I just want to be informational. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's go back to what Cynthia said after Forrest told her after the finder announcement. Forrest told her that the way that the finder would get out of the initial taxes is he would hand the treasure to the finder and he would hand it back to him. He's giving him title to the gold. So he has legal ownership. So it's treated as a gift, in my opinion. Forrest took care of the gift part when he initially got it. This goes to your question from before, Mike. The title was given to Jack in June. This establishes the tax basis, but it does not establish when he sells it what the capital gains is. And I want to go into that next slide. These are the things that stand out to me, all my opinions coming up. Okay, so I'll get back to that piece of the cost basis in a second. Jack has only given one interview to Dan Barbarosi. His book is soon to be out. I think we're about 2 months away from it being out. It was not in person, though. If you look up on Thor, a little intrusive, but it's up there. Jack and Dan lived within like 20 minutes of each other, but it was not a face-to-face interview, which I find fascinating. Jack has not taken possession of the treasure chest. It's still in Santa Fe. Part of the incentive of the legal document and Jack needing to get explicit permission was for him to get the treasure chest and Forrest would take on the gift tax. That's what, again, makes the cost basis. But I believe you would have an additional incentive if you put it where Forrest wanted it. And that is what Jack's not doing. And that is why Forrest, I think that's how the redneck from Texas would have been fine. But we have somebody that is doing it a little different than Forrest expected.
I guess I agree with all that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not groundbreaking at this point. This is more just continuing to give evidence of why I think the theory fits. So why did Forrest not congratulate the finder? This is a little more edgy, but hey, I've already dipped my toe in it. I'm just going to jump into the pool. I congratulate the thousands of people who participated in the search and hope they will continue to be drawn by the promise of other discoveries. So I believe when Forrest got that initial call, he either traced or asked for Jack's name. He didn't initially give congratulations to Jack because he probably saw his colorful past. I was going to say a lot of us have it. I'm not saying that, I'm not knocking it at that point because he probably just wanted to be neutral until he met Jack, understood all his background and things. So that's the reason initially Forrest did not congratulate him. Forrest said, though, the person who finds it won't be able to keep it a secret. Forrest said he wanted a redneck to find it, one that had 12 kids and a pickup. He said he would hope to sit down. He said this during our interview, Mike, sit down with the finder, get to know him, get a feel for the person who found the treasure chest. Right? Okay, next slide.
That's correct.
So by the final 2 press releases, he had sat with him, he got to know him, and he still lacked a congratulations. This can't be unintentional. By that time, I believe Jack had visited with him, relocated, or indicated to Forrest he was going to be relocating and not fulfilling Forrest's wishes. And that was part of the reason that Forrest maybe was a little disappointed at the end. I know I've gotten some correspondence. He wasn't thrilled by the end of the thrill of the chase. And I didn't know if it was specifically related to Jack or not. So the outing of Jack seemed premature. Jack could have filed a motion. So let's move over to the lawsuit portion that prevented that subpoena to be executed with the estate by the Fenn estate. That didn't happen. Jack did not want to spend additional funding because he's about the fiscal aspect, especially since he was out of the country. I think that's the piece that I didn't know and makes more sense now. And that would need to be disclosed if that happened in the process. I believe potentially the family was aware of the finder, the ending, not fulfilling Forrest's promise. They were not willing to continue the legal fight, and that Forrest's wishes were not going to be followed through. So they said, we're going to do it by the date that the judge says, and we are out. What say you?
I mean, it's a theory, and it could be true. A lot of it's speculation, and we won't know. But I like it. I like the theory. I like the thought progression for sure.
Okay, keep going. We're towards the very end. So why is Jack a genius? So Jack said Forrest said he was a genius. Isn't that a compliment? Jack found the treasure through slip-ups, not the poem. Maybe Forrest didn't like that, but that is pretty clever. So let's say clever genius. Forrest thought he had thought of everything. He made a tax exclusion to make the finder come and see him, and to make the treasure go where he wanted it to fulfill his legacy. In my opinion, Jack has found a different way that Forrest did not anticipate. Forrest thought this would be his legacy by offering the tax incentives. It would be enough for anyone to take advantage of that, especially like so many of us that probably would have done it, especially if it's kind of near us still getting a windfall. We wouldn't have worried about the extra little bit. We wouldn't move out of the country. We wouldn't go against Forrest's wishes. We wouldn't do all of that. We'd probably just go along with it because we were so grateful for Forrest. Jack had researched how to get through the taxes on his own. He was willing to do that, even move out of the country. Forrest wanted to meet him and explain the secrets, Jack's words, but Jack was not even willing to do that. He gave up his home, residence, living in the US, etc. There seems to be no sentimental connection for him with the life he had wherever he was. The chase, the searcher is Forrest. So if he didn't have that connection with Forrest, do you think he's corresponding with all these searchers out of the goodness of his heart? I don't think so, and I have a theory on that. But Forrest did not think of everything, and his time was running out. And it's a little bit of a sad horn here. He gave up so much, and at the end, he didn't get what he wanted.
Right. Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, next slide. Unless you have anything on this one.
Good.
Okay, there was a discussion, and I wasn't able to find it. There was an NDA signed, and I thought the document said it was signed by Forrest, or the release or something. Here's where I need your help. I believe it was in a legal document, but there's so many legal documents, or I believe it was on a website. I don't know. Anytime I put up something on the forums and say, do you guys remember where this was? You help me out. Wasn't there something that Forrest signed a non-disclosure? If you know where that is, just put it in the comment section or shoot me an email at kpro3@aol.com. I think that additionally adds to it. Go ahead, Mike.
Or better yet, put it on Thor. So I've put a link to the hintofriches.com in the chat. That is the forum for Forrest Fenn discussion. So yeah, if you know anything about Forrest signing an NDA, let's post it there. Email KPRO, but also post it for discussion. And if you guys want to discuss anything we've talked about tonight, hintofriches.com is there as well.
Yep. Okay. Go back to the slides, go to the next one. Just that was my earmark to remind me to say that was the piece I didn't get in here. So pending questions. Since Jack moved to Puerto Rico so quickly, he must have known he would not be putting it where Forrest requested. And he's not even interested in, oh.
We did get a super chat from Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl, for that $10 super chat. Agree with many, not all theories, but appreciate that you said, in my opinion, and did due diligence. So thank you, Cheryl. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so why is Jack talking so much with searchers? Here's the last email. You can see it at the upper right. Mike, and this is not our Mike that it's not Mike. Not Cowlazars. I will first try to sell the treasure as whole. If it doesn't happen, I will sell piecemeal, but let's try it first to sell it as a whole. That is why. So Jack flat out said, Forrest enjoyed meeting and conversing with many searchers over the years, but that is not something I'm looking for. So he's not looking for it, but I believe he needs it. Just like he needed to move to Puerto Rico. He's been calculated about every step. I think that's where Forrest called him a genius. He'd really thought it through. This is just a theory, though, that Jack is conversing with searchers, consistently in a repetitive format, in a lot of searchers, not just a handful. And everything up to this point, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's factual. He's been very financially driven. I believe he's talking to searchers because if it goes piecemeal, he has corresponded with hundreds and hundreds of searchers. I know. So Ben's going piecemeal. Yeah, sell it one by one. Well, we just bought a big comic book collection. Mike is going to be selling it off one by one or in groups. And it's like getting a car and selling it for its parts. It's a lot more cumbersome that way. But what do you think, Mike?
Oh, I think Jack will absolutely sell it together. And the more value is to sell it together as a whole. I think a lot of people that have big money would not be interested in just a part. They want the whole thing.
Yeah, but if he doesn't so we know he said he'd take 5 million tomorrow, and I don't believe it's anywhere near that. Let's say the number he has in his mind is 3 million. Let's just say for giggles. And he goes up for auction and nobody bids 3 million. Then his next step is going to be to sell it off piecemeal, is what he's saying. I don't know if he'll get that selling it piecemeal, but maybe.
If he put one gold coin on eBay, that would be interesting to see how high that goes, that all of us could own one gold coin from the treasure chest, depending how high it goes. That would be pretty interesting to see and watch, wouldn't it?
Well, think about it this way. If one of the gold eagles were for sale, how much do one of those cost? Just give me a ballpark. 500, 1,000, 10,000.
An ounce of gold, let's call it $2,000. But then there's the numismatic value depending on the year. So call it 2,500, $3,000. Somewhere in the 2,500 range would be my guess, depending on the coin and the condition. The conditions means a lot as well.
Yeah, I would want to own a piece of the treasure chest. So if it went up for sale on eBay, and let's say it's worth 2,500, I would try to save up. I would steal out of your piggy bank. I would probably go up to 3 or 4, maybe 5. I don't know.
5, probably.
Yeah, like I would want a piece of it. That would be a discussion point for the rest of my life. I absolutely would want something. And I, of course, would want the frog, but I know I could never get it. I don't care if it's a piece of scrap dust I don't care if it's the damn stick. I don't care if it's a piece of something. One of the plastic baggies. Think about the things you could sell in the treasure chest with a certificate of authenticity. You could sell the Ziploc bags. You could sell, so many things. I think, yeah, he could sell a piece a week. Exactly, Marty. I could scrounge up 2,500. Billy says, yeah.
Comic books. Yeah, exactly. So, and my comic books will be going on eBay, everybody. So stay tuned, but I'll make some separate videos on that. Okay. Back to the PowerPoint, or was that it?
No, keep going. I think there's one more. Okay. All my opinion based on incomplete information. That's all we have. I didn't set it up this way. I actually think it'd be better if it went out via some official channels, because I think there's some shenanigans. I think there's lots of private information. I can tell you, I know an individual searcher that has lots of different accounts and has been emailing different accounts. They did that to Forrest too. I think Jack might have been very, very much a genius when it came to how to get through taxes, this and that. I think he's getting kind of caught up in all of this. Maybe it's the 15 minutes of fame. I don't know what it is, but I just say in general, that's what's making all of this. But this is my silly theories. That's all it is. But it's based on some due diligence of information that I've received. And thank you guys for trusting me with it, because there's certain things I just won't repeat, but I will get it out there. Go ahead, Mike.
All right. We got another $10 super chat from Supreme Seek, who says, great research, interesting show today. Add this amount for your piecemeal purchase of the gold coin. Thank you, Supreme Seek. And I know you have a treasure hunt, so I invite you to come on the show on a Thursday and just talk about it. I know we were going to Zoom privately. Just come on and we'll talk about it live, and that to get the word out so everybody can understand how it works. But email me, cowlazars@gmail.com, and we will set that up. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody asked, what is the finder's email? So it's Jack 819-624-7999-62999-4937. And he said that's totally random, but it comes up to Jack hid cash.
Or Jack hijacked cash, or hijacked cash. Jack hid cash, hijacked cash. Yeah, a lot of people think there's some secondary meaning to everything Jack's doing. He's trying to give the solve. He's trying to give the solution without coming right out and saying it. But I will say this, guys, our Forrest Fenn Monday night panel is on for tomorrow night, 7 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. And you want to tune in because Cynthia Meacham is going to be on. Cynthia just put up a new video. I think it was today, right? It is today. It's called Forrest Fenn Conversations with Cynthia, and it's about Yellowstone. This is the link to her video. You should all go watch it. You should all go subscribe to her channel because I just have to say it. I'm just going to say it. Cynthia says that Forrest told her a couple years ago that he hid the treasure chest while he went up to Cody. It opens up a can of worms, but that's what we want to talk about on the panel tomorrow night. So definitely tune in. That's going to be a good one tomorrow night. Well, we also have Chasing Indy's going to be on, and some other people are going to be on the panel. But Cynthia makes more of these videos, and if she decides to disclose things that her and Forrest talked about, it's an important thing to talk about, I think. Is that a hint? But now you could argue and say, well, that doesn't mean it was up there. It means if he drove, he could have hit it anywhere along the way, the drive up there, anywhere along the way back. But we'll see what Cynthia comes out with in future videos. And yeah, it's watch the video. In my opinion, it 100% points to Yellowstone being the location of the treasure chest. But you guys,
Did you watch it? Actually, in Rumblings and Ramblings, it says the exact term that Jack said in his release. I will tell you, Cynthia was very respectful and asked me in an upcoming one, could she share something that I had told her? And I did tell her that was okay. I believe what Cynthia is going to put out, for those of you that wanted to know what was happening in the background and it will be fascinating, and she's bringing it. She's going to show, like she did. She showed the action. It's not just her synopsis. She's going to be showing emails. She's going to be showing video. She's going to be showing exchanges. She's going to be, and the one thing I've told her is I'm not going to get involved in drama part, but I am going to confirm. There's a couple things that Forrest told me specifically about Cynthia that I think she'll be sharing. I'm not going to steal her thunder though. I've talked very little with her about this. This is her project. I think she needs this piece. I do think she's still looking for the treasure, but I think she wants to share some things with all of you. And I say, good on her.
She absolutely is still looking for the location the treasure was. She thinks we're going to be able to figure that out. One thing I'm going to ask her on the panel tomorrow, and I don't know, Cynthia, if you're watching, if you're in the chat, but get ready for this one tomorrow night on the Forrest Fenn panel. And that is Forrest telling you that a couple years ago that he was up there in Cody when he hid the treasure chest. Is that why you switched to the Yellowstone area from New Mexico? Is that the reason? Yes or no? That's all I want to know. But okay. Yeah, that'll be very interesting. So make sure you go check our video out and subscribe to her channel, because I don't know how often these videos are going to come out. That'll be another thing we can ask her tomorrow night, but it will be interesting. I will say this. Hooli says, so excited for this new series. Yeah, the Forrest Fenn panels were K-Pro's idea. It's a very good idea. And I will set up the link tonight, guys, so that you will know exactly.
I think the series she's talking about is Cynthia's Conversations.
Oh, what? All right. Maybe both. Maybe she's excited for both. Ben Napple, thank you. We appreciate that. He says, thank you to K-Pro and Kyle for keeping.
And one last thing that I wanted to say is and Goldilocks, they're going to be having their Zoom. So those of you that don't know, put together, he has some knowledge, some professional knowledge, I believe, or expert knowledge on photoshopping, etc. He believes some of the photos were photoshopped. He did a fundraiser. It was filled in less than a week. They, I don't know if it's and Goldilocks is helping. I just know the two of them are who I go to and ask questions. They got some detailed information from different companies that provide kind of different suites of results. It gets a little bit above my head, like they'll be able to provide this or provide that. They are getting anyone who contributed together on a Zoom today to ask for feedback on, okay, this is what we got from the companies. Here's what we're thinking. These are the next step. They want to be as transparent as possible. Mike and I were contributors. We will be sitting in. I have asked them if we can update the community along the way. Robert has his own YouTube. I'm open to pointing it to them. They have said it's okay, or did tell me it's okay. Discuss away, because that's what he wants. He wants this for the community. So Thank you guys. I know not everybody is enthusiastic about this analysis. Some people think it's questioning Forrest's integrity. Forrest said 85-15. It's only 15% that is Photoshop. Don't you worry. No, I just don't. I actually am a believer that we contributed to show there's nothing there. It's going to be a nothing burger at the end. But I'm okay being wrong with that. I just like the process, transparent. They seem like honest people that are doing it right. So let's walk through the process. So people donated anywhere from $1 to $700, and everybody's a part at this point to put their opinions in. So in case I'll see some of you in about, I think, a half an hour, maybe in an hour and a half. I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever Mike
about
says.
half an hour. But tomorrow night on the Monday night panel, we'll talk about whatever this Zoom is going to be. And remember, O's in charge of this. He's the one making the decisions, but at least he's having a Zoom to inform us of what's going on. So make sure you thumbs up. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Forrest Fenn panel. And yeah, thank you for the super chats. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And just because it was requested.
Thank you for that.
There's the soundboard. Somebody said, what? No soundboard tonight? There you go. We had
Okay,
one.
and last thing, Cynthia's not the only one on. We have a brand new searcher who's never been on. We have somebody who's a blast from the past. We have Indy. She said, I didn't tell her, check your email, Indy. And lots of people in between. So I actually think we're plussed up one. We have somebody from over the pond or across the pond, whatever they say. So we have a variety happening tomorrow. It'll be lively. It'll be fun. So let's just keep it positive and fun, because positivity always triumphs over negativity. Right, Mike?
That's right. And Albert, no, Zoom is not going to be on YouTube. This is a closed Zoom just for the people who contributed to the GoFundMe for the Photoshop analysis, or the analysis of the photos. So this will not be live anywhere as far as I know, but we will communicate to you guys whatever it was with his permission on tomorrow night's show. So I think that's it. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Tomorrow night we'll be back in just over 24 hours or so, because that's what we do. Forrest Fenn Treasure Found. I need to make a comic book video tonight, and I may do that as well. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Any last words, K-Pro?
No.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
We'll see you next time.